try different angles, try different positions. So I wasn't really too sure about making this video, but I thought it would probably be a good idea anyway, because a lot of people send me DMs and questions on Twitter and things like that. And they're like, you know, how do you take photos? Or what do you use to take photos? Basically, nothing special really. I use a couple of different cameras. One of them being the iPhone is usually one of my main cameras that I use. Also, I have this one here, which is the Fuji XE2. It's about, I don't know, 5 years old or so. And it has a 56mm 1.2 prime lens attached to it. If you're not really too sure what any of these things mean, I'll put a link in the description below with the links to the lenses, and you can read about them yourselves. This is the other lens I use, which is a 18-135. It's like an all-rounder travel lens, really, really handy. It means it's wide and it can do zoom function as well. I use this as well, which is a 50mm Canon lens, otherwise known as a legacy lens. This is really cool. This is a 1.4, which means the aperture is mad on it. I also have this one, which is a 27mm lens as well, otherwise known as kind of like a, I guess this is like a Fuji pancake lens, if that makes sense. And the reason why I bought this is because it's really small. So when, you know, when you're going out for a street shoot or whatever, you don't have to carry around this big lens, or actually this lens here. You can just carry it around like this. One of my favorite lenses, because I've had it for so long, and I bought it for a steal on Carousel. That's what I use to take most of my photos. I've also been doing a lot of film shooting recently. So I got this, which is an EOS 7. Yeah, it's like the film version of the 7D basically. And also this as well, which is an Olympus, but this is like a little tiny point and shoot camera. It's really fun to shoot with. I love to take this one on holiday, because it's just so light. It's so small. It's really, really tiny compared to this big beast here. But this has its own advantages as well. So you can kind of like look at the focus point and then choose where you want to focus it. So this is a really cool camera. I carry this around with me every now and then, but it's kind of heavy. But the beautiful thing about Fuji cameras is they are so light. Like this is really, really light. I picked this up for about $500 a few years ago. So yeah, it's a bargain. I mean, the rest, like the lenses and things, is what you're going to spend your money on. I'm not like formally trained. I didn't go to photo school or anything like that. I took like 2 photo lessons, I think, when I was in university, and then I just kind of stopped going to that. You know, basically when I go out, I just kind of look for things that I think are interesting to my eye, and then I just try and take photos of them and make, and replicate that image in my mind into a photo. And then I think the thing which kind of separates the photo style is always the post-processing, which is kind of like putting it into Lightroom and editing it, or into Photoshop and editing it. That kind of gives you a little bit of a different style if you're kind of taking the same sort of photos as everybody else, if that makes sense. Here's a couple of pictures from my Instagram, which I kind of like. I really enjoy these pictures. Yeah, my New Zealand photos, I really like those. They were kind of cool. But I'm on this film buzz at the moment. I just love shooting film. I think some of the things that I enjoy shooting are like gigs. I really enjoy shooting concerts and festivals and whatnot. I also love shooting street photos and travel photos, but I also like shooting things that I've never shot before, which is kind of like basically most of street photos. You kind of haven't shot specific areas before, but I'm not a professional photographer. I wouldn't even say that I'm like a photographer. I'm just somebody who likes to take photos, and that's about it. And then I post them on my Instagram. I don't even have like a lot of followers. I'm not like a 700,000 follower account. I have like 3,000 followers, and hardly any of them are active anyway. So yeah, I just enjoy taking pictures. I think one of the biggest things that I learned was just to take your camera with you everywhere. If you take your camera everywhere, it kind of forces you to take photos of things, I guess, because basically when you're out, you've got your camera with you and you see something, you can just go, tup, 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 tup. Okay, I can take that picture. Versus like, oh man, I don't have any camera with me because I you know, I'm gonna miss that shot. To challenge yourself with the equipment that you have. If you don't have a fancy camera, that's perfectly fine. Just use your iPhone, because it doesn't matter about what kind of gear you have. Of course, different gear is gonna give you different results. If you're really into like wide angle photography and you wanna shoot everything with a wide angle lens, then you're gonna have to get a wide angle lens and put it on your camera. Or you can get a wide angle lens for your iPhone. Yeah, it doesn't really matter about what gear you have. However, different gear will give you slightly different results. Like Fuji has really good in-camera color processing, which is going to give you a different result to, say, like a Canon camera or a Nikon camera, for example. Go and look and see what other photographers are doing. What photos are they taking? What style of pictures are they taking? Try and emulate that style as much as you can. You don't necessarily have to post them online, and I think that wouldn't be a good idea anyway. Keep them for your own reference, critique them yourself, and then try and take the same, or try and go to the same location that you went to before that you were trying to emulate that style, and just find different ways to take the same photo. Try different angles, try different positions, try lots of different things. It will give you a better idea of what to shoot, and you'll get different results, and you'll start to build and learn your own style. Well, there's two ways actually. One of them is Fuji has this really awesome built-in color profiles into their cameras, so usually I shoot with those. So if I'm out and about and I'm posting things like on my Twitter, or I'm posting them on my Instagram, and they're like live photos, they're happening at that moment. Typically they're straight out of the camera and they're using the Fuji like settings. Other than that, if I'm uploading something like my New Zealand trip photos, for example, they're all post-processed through Lightroom. So basically I have different settings. Some people call them LUTs, some people call them filters, presets. I just have set certain presets that either I've made myself or I've bought from somewhere, and then I apply those and I just go through and color correct and kind of like color grade all those photos. But yeah, I mean, that kind of makes a huge difference. Somebody sent me a link to some photos and they're like, oh, how do you get this style, or how do you get this look? And actually the photo itself, I mean, was taken on an iPhone, but it was just edited really, really well. So that's also another thing as well to take into consideration. You might want to invest your time into learning how to post-process your photos, because that can make a huge difference. But of course, the basic principles and rules of photography are really, really important. The rule of thirds, for example, or basically that's all I know, because I don't know much. But basically learn all the rules as much as you can, and then just go out there and break them. That's what I do. I don't know any rules. I was never trained. Yeah, and that's kind of my quick tips and ideas on how to take photos and what I use. I'll put all the list of things below so that you can get a good idea of what equipment I use. Anyway, any questions you have, put them below. I'll try and answer them. Hopefully this makes sense when I edit it all. And yeah, thanks. See you later.